Guess we'll talk about this shit that happened as well. Kansas revoked transgender people's IDs overnight, which will have cascading health and social consequences. That's just fantastic. I'm so happy we live in this fucking timeline. Memory Martin says, I heard your birthday was recent. Happy belated. Thank you. It was yesterday. I took the day off because I wanted to go eat sushi instead. Turns out the sushi place we go to actually has a deal if you go with a group where the person whose birthday it is doesn't have to spend any money. So I just did that. And now I'm hungry because I haven't eaten since breakfast. Anyway, still gonna cover this. The number of bills directly targeting and undermining the existing legal rights of trans and non-binary people in the U.S. has been escalating, with sharp increases since 2021 and with each consecutive year. Kansas dealt the most radical blow yet in February 26, 2026, as a law that immediately invalidates state-issued driver's license, identification cards, and birth certificates for holders whose gender marker does not match their sex assigned at birth took effect overnight. And we have idiots on the internet that are still arguing about trans people not losing any actual rights. This new law, called the House Substitute for Senate Bill 244, passed after legislators overrode the governor's veto to rush it through legislation. There is no grace period for the law, meaning trans and non-binary people will have immediately invalid documents, putting them at risk for a $1,000 fine for up to 6 months in jail for driving with an invalid license. The law also restricts bathroom use to assign sex at birth, and it allows citizens to sue. It allows citizens to sue trans people for $1,000 for not complying. And yet there's that one dipshit who's been arguing with me for days about why it's actually okay for cis women to panic about trans women being in a bathroom, that she's written fucking essays on it, despite the fact that I've given her everything that should sway an opinion on this shit. When you actually read science articles on this and you go, that's not convincing enough, I give up. I fucking give up on you. Dorito, I sent you those and she had more to say. I will do a segment on that, actually. While 21 states have passed similar bathroom restrictions, Kansas is the first to invalidate state-issued ID. And then they point out that they are researchers who study how marginalization and resilience affects the lives of trans and non-binary people. Our work has documented how lack of access to accurate and affirming identification documents affects the health and well-being of this community. By mandating the use of assigned sex on identity documents, Kansas denies transgender people legal recognition and curtails their freedom of movement. These laws open the door to an even wider range of discriminatory policies. So just got tired of me talking about the electrical work, so we dumped loads of pictures on me? Absolutely, I fucking did. Invalidating someone's identification documents has immediate and powerful consequences that cascade into all aspects of their life. Man, I can talk about this one because I remember when I didn't have access to my documents because an ex of mine stole them. That was fun. Man. A little more fire in that than I thought was going to be there. Something to talk about in therapy, I guess. Anyway, I remember not having access to my documents when I needed them, and it caused a fucking domino effect for me. Effect one was that I wasn't able to get the job that I wanted in time. I was in between jobs. I had enough money to pay my car insurance up to a certain point, and then my ability to get my job was taken away for a little bit because I didn't have my identification papers. I didn't know I didn't have them because I didn't know that when I needed to look for them, they wouldn't be there. I was only informed after the fact that my ex had fucking stolen them. So I ultimately didn't get the job in time, and my insurance lapsed for about a week. And when that insurance lapsed, I still needed to drive to orientation. I didn't have money for Uber or anything like that. I just had the ability to go do orientation and pray that things would work out. And ultimately, I got completely fucked in that situation. A officer ran my tags, pulled me over, threw me in jail, impounded my car. I ended up having to borrow thousands of dollars to get my car out, pay the court fees, all kinds of shit in order to just get my life back on track, even a little bit. And all of that happened because one person decided that I didn't need my birth certificate anymore. Then that person had the audacity to ask me for $2,000. Anyway, I'm leaving important parts of that story out. I am leaving important parts of that story out. So Haru says, can't you sue her? It's been 11 years. And at the time, my response to that situation was to say to everybody around me, I just want to be done. I would like to cut this particular cancer out of my life and be finished. And that is it. I do not wish for anything else. Now, I'm not giving that conversation to disparage my ex of many years ago. I am not doing that specifically for that. I am sure that in the 10 years since that has happened, they have become a much better, more mature person and would never do that to a person ever again. The reason I give that story is, in my experience, losing access to your documents at an inopportune time can fucking destroy you. Because it did that to me. Again, my situation was a little unique, but it did it to me. Needless to say, though, there is an example in here. For example, without a valid driver's license, many trans and non-binary people will be unable to get to work, attend classes, pick up their children, visit the doctor, see friends, or go to the grocery store. Trans and non-binary people who need to drive with an invalid license risk fines and jail time, where they would be housed according to their sex assigned at birth. This is another one where me and that idiot were fighting about, where they were like, actually, no, I'm okay with trans people being thrown in the wrong jail cell. Like that. I'm sorry, but no, absolutely fucking not. Taking a train or bus is not a solution that would work for many people. Almost half the U.S. population doesn't have access to any public transportation. For those who do, it's often poorly maintained, sparse, or unreliable. The two transgender men who sued the state of Kansas to block the law noted how loss of their ability to drive makes them unable to work. The effects of invalidating someone's legal documents goes far beyond just transportation. Legal IDs are required to access healthcare, obtain housing, have a job, vote, attend college, access financial assistance, or even purchase cold medicine at a fucking pharmacy. Yeah, if you get actually good Sudafed, you do have to show ID for that. Not having health identification documents with the current gender marker also poses a health and safety risk. Trans and non-binary people who have not updated their identification are more likely to experience psychological distress and suicidality, in part due to increased day-to-day stress. For trans and non-binary people whose physical appearance no longer aligns with their ID, not having updated documents puts them at risk for harassment and violence. Roughly a quarter of trans and non-binary people who have not updated their ID documents experience subsequent mistreatment when showing their IDs, including verbal harassment, assault, and denial of services or access to settings. In our research, we similarly found that not having one's gender legally affirmed is associated with greater discrimination and social rejection, one pathway to negative effects on mental and physical health. To comply with the current laws sets up an impossible situation for many trans and non-binary people who've been using the restroom aligning with their gender identity and presentation for years. These individuals are set up to face violence, legal action, or criminal penalties, even when they are complying with the law, as using the restroom aligned with their sex assigned at birth will appear to others as contradicting their gender representation. Researchers and public health officials consider accurate and affirming identification documents an essential detriment to their health. The WHO, UN, and the World Professional Association for Transgender Health have called for trans and non-binary people to have the right to legal recognition of their gender. So, this is where I need to talk about the death of expertise, because, dear God, I am so tired of living in a world where politicians who have had absolutely none, zero experience in the real world around them other than being handed a fucking silver spoon, still get to legislate how you and I live. Description, DSA, you know the fucking drill. It's insane to me that a group of people who will accept no expert advice on trans people and trans healthcare still get the ability to legislate on it. That's so strange, isn't it? That people who have no experience and do not have any experts on fucking panel telling them what to do will still restrict your rights against expert critique. And if you say, oh, you don't know if they don't have experts on panel, my guy, I fucking do know that. I can tell you that for a fact, because they would not be making these decisions if those experts were actually there. Instead, there's fucking ideologues who don't care about science. It's important in times like this for you, me, everybody around us to band together and do what we can. Now, for some of you, that may be as little as just helping a friend drive to obtain the legal documents that they need for now, and then instead try to work with your local politicians to get this shit rescinded. We can amass enough power at the local level, we can undermine the power at the state level and the federal level. But the biggest thing is we need to stick together. I have been done for years with leftist infighting and Ouroboros shit. I've tried not to do that many videos on other creators unless there is, or other creators on the left specifically, unless there is something egregious that has happened. And in only one of those scenarios did I ever actually maintain a friendship with that creator afterwards. Not going to name who. Not really important. Fact of the matter is, if we continue to eat ourselves and purity test ourselves, then we are just going to rip each other apart while our rights get taken away. Because it doesn't stop at trans rights. Trans rights get to be a testing ground to see exactly how many rights they can erode off of a small part of the population. And then, once those rights have been eroded enough, then you start having conversations about the next people that you can erode the rights of. What's the next largest population that you can take rights away from? How can we otherize them? How can we argue, like Project 2025 argued, that their existence is pornography? We got work to do, y'all. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Sylvie Snow, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.